Welcome everyone. This is Stephanie Slater, Executive Assistant to Chris Engler. Engler IT has been around since 2004, and our mission is to cultivate a select group of success-minded entrepreneurs that inspires excellence, encourages collaboration, and expands the capacity of all members to achieve great things. Chris has been working with computers for over 20 years, and he specializes in supporting small businesses and creating policies and procedures and training programs. Here's the man of the hour, Chris Engler.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. The title of this month's webinar is Find Out if Cyber Criminals Already Have Your Private Information and How to Keep Your Account Secure Without Having to Remember Complicated Passwords. So I know that's a mouthful, so let's pick it apart. We're going to handle the first part first and the second part second. First part is, how do I find out what information about me or my company is available to criminals? And the short answer is dark web monitoring. And I'm going to dig into the dark web real quick, just to make sure you guys know what the dark web is. And the dark web is encrypted online content that is not indexed by conventional search engines, also known as the dark net. The dark web is a component of the deep web that describes the wider breadth of content that does not appear through regular internet browsing activities. And I have a picture here for us to look at so that we can really understand what this thing is. So when you're on Google, Yahoo, when you're on Facebook, Amazon, ordering things, Instagram, whenever you're using the internet for what you typically use the internet for, that's really only 4% of the internet. But it's pretty much what everybody uses. Lying below there is the deep web. Those are things that you're not going to find through a Google search. Medical databases, scientific databases, things that you have to know where they are so that you can go out and get them. They're not going to show up through a web search. And then even deeper than that is the dark web. And the dark web is something that you need specialized hardware and software to access. And so there's a lot of anonymity built into the dark web. And so there's a lot of privacy, and then also it lends itself to a certain amount of criminal activity. And I'm sure everybody's heard about all the bad things that are happening on the dark web. And for the sake of this quick webinar, we're going to focus on the marketplaces that exist where breached information changes hands. And just to give you an idea about what's happening there is that there are bad guys that are out there breaching information. There are folks that are warehousing breached information. And then in the marketplaces, that's where the breached information really starts to change hands. And we need to monitor what's happening in these marketplaces and what's happening in the world of companies that are being breached so that we know what information is out there floating around about us. And so let's just let this sink in real quick. This is our reality right now. Your personal identifiable information and passwords will be breached and will float around on the dark web. This is the reality. This is what's happening. Okay, so how do we protect ourselves against this? Because right now it seems like there's not a whole lot we can do besides try to find out what they're doing. But we can take a couple precautions to make the activity that exists here less, to have less of an impact on us. And so the first thing we can do is turn on another layer of authentication on our accounts. There's MFA and 2FA, that's multi-factor authentication and two-factor authentication. The terms are typically used interchangeably. And so what that is when you go to sign into your account and someone texted you a code or you get a code emailed to you and you got to plug in that code, it's just another way of verifying who you are, who you say you are, and it adds another layer of security to your account. And so if you have that available, turn that on. But really the underlying issue of this whole thing is a strong password policy. And we need to make sure that everyone has a strong password policy. And I'm going to outline for you what a strong password policy looks like. And then I'm going to show you how you make it happen, how you make this part of your life without making your life any more complicated than it has to be. And so a good password policy is going to have at least 10 characters in your password. You're going to have upper and lower case characters. You're going to have numbers, symbols. It's going to be hard to guess, meaning it's not going to be your kid's name, anybody's birthday, not your dog's name, nothing that anyone would be able to guess about you if they knew anything about you. We want it to be something you have not used in the past, and we want it to be different from account to account. And the reason we want it to be different from account to account is because when these passwords get breached, if you have one password, like most people do, that protect most of their accounts, then what will happen is once that single password gets breached, all those accounts become compromised. And so you don't want to use the same password. You don't even want to use like similar passwords from account to account. You want them to be as random as possible. And now you're going to tell me, Chris, this seems impossible. How am I going to be able to create these passwords? Number one, it's going to take me a while. And number two, how am I going to remember these passwords? And my answer to you is you don't need to come up with passwords, and you don't need to remember any of your passwords. I know almost none of my passwords, and I make accounts all the time. I don't come up with them, and I don't remember them. And I'm going to share with you now the 2 tools that you need in order to implement this in your life. You need, number one, a password generator, something that is going to come up with the password for you that's going to meet the criteria. So you don't have to go back and keep trying to guess what a good password might be for whatever website you're on. If you stick to those criteria that I showed you, it will work for pretty much everything. And then the next thing you need is a password manager. And this is the tool that's going to remember the password for you and recall it for you, plug it into your application or plug it into your website when you need it, so that you don't have to remember it. So you don't have to come up with things, you don't have to remember things. And now I'm going to show you exactly what these things are on Apple and Windows. And so I am an Apple user, and I use Safari to do most of my internet browsing, and Safari will come up with passwords for me. And then after Safari comes up with passwords, it then stores those passwords into my keychain. And my keychain is my Apple is my Apple built-in password manager. And so Safari comes up with the passwords, keychain remembers them. And on the Windows side, get Google Chrome, it's free. All those things with Apple, those were all free too. They came with it, use them. Use Google Chrome. That should be your default browser on your Windows computer, and it will remember your passwords for you. It will not, however, generate passwords for you. So, and then also Safari sometimes doesn't always understand the website or the app well enough to recommend a password or to know that it's asking for you to make a password. So in those cases, when you're using Google Chrome or when Safari doesn't remember things or doesn't recognize things, what you need to do is you need to have a password generator. And my go-to password generator is passwordsgenerator.net. It's a website. You just plug that into your browser, go to passwordsgenerator.net, you hit generate password, and it will generate the password for you. You copy, you paste it into your form, your account, whatever you need to put it, you hit go, and then your keychain remembers it, or you tell Google to remember it, and then it's in the system, and then you walk away from it. You don't ever really need to know what that password is because you can always go into Chrome or Keychain to look it up if you need to. So that's it. That's how you use password generators, and that's how you use password managers. And so just in summation here, because I know this happened really quick, if you want to know what kind of information is floating around out there about you, you need dark web monitoring, number one. And then in order to really strengthen your accounts and your security posture, you need to have a strong password policy. And in order to have a strong password policy, use the password generator and use a password manager. And that's it. Stephanie, do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. So what about password manager apps? Some are good and some are bad. Which one do I use?
Yeah, that's right. I just showed you on if you have a Mac, use Keychain. There's no question about it. Use Keychain. It's what's built into it. And if you have it set up right, it will synchronize your passwords amongst all your devices, and then your passwords will follow you around. If you're in the Apple world or if you're in the Android world, use Google Chrome. That is the thing to use. Now, when we're talking about a corporate environment, which may be what you're getting at, Sometimes we need a little more manageability. We need a little more security. And in those environments, we're starting to roll out an application called Password Boss for our corporate clients. And it's working a lot, and we like it.
Okay. How do I get dark web monitoring?
So dark web monitoring, you can kind of get it in two flavors. You can get it for yourself personally, or you can get it for your business. There's a good chance that there is someone already doing dark web monitoring for you. And so I'll give you an example. I have a Capital One credit card. And because I have a Capital One credit card, they are doing some dark web monitoring on my behalf. I didn't ask them to do this. It's just something they came to the table with and started doing automatically. And so they actually warned me about something the other day, about myself personally, about a password that was associated with my personal email account. Now, on the company side, on the corporate side, if you want to have dark web monitoring there, you're going to need to connect with some type of managed service provider like Angular IT.
Perfect. What do I do if I find out that my password was compromised?
Yeah. Yeah, it happens a lot. I had one the other day that was compromised, and I know it was compromised because I got a report from my dark web monitoring service saying that it was, and I was surprised to see it because I thought I had kept that password pretty safe. Now, what should you do? The very first thing that you should do is that if you should take notice of all the accounts that you have that password is associated with, and you should replace that password on all of those accounts. And you should make all those accounts have separate unique passwords according to the password policy that we talked about earlier. Another good thing to have is internal multi-factor authentication like we touched on.
Great, thanks. There are no more questions at this time.
Okay, cool. I just want to put in a plug real quick for our webinar next month, which is going to be called Eliminate Expensive Upgrades and Gain Scalability and Efficiencies by Leveraging the Modern Cloud. It's Thursday, April 30th at 1 p.m. We're going to be blasting it. We're going to put out some stuff on Facebook. See it there. You can look at this webinar and all of our past webinars, and also register for this webinar and any other future webinar by going to anglerit.com/webinars. That's anglerit.com/webinars. And that's all I got for you.
All right, thanks for joining Chris and I today on the webinar. If we did not get to your questions, please contact us. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media pages, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. We are constantly updating our pages with a lot of great information. All right, have a great day. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Stephanie. Bye, everybody.